Yarden, you should be coming in now.
Yeah,
Here you
you're gonna
are.
be.
I can hear you. May I see you?
I'm gonna be screen sharing, so my
Okay, that's fine. That's completely fine. Come on in. Everybody, Yarden Horwitz is the co-founder of Spate, the artificial intelligence trends platform for beauty. Prior to founding Spate, Yarden co-founded trend spotting at Google, where she launched renowned reports such as the Google Fashion Trends Report and the Google Skincare Trends Report. There's nobody better to speak on trends in beauty and skincare. I am really looking forward to this. Yarden was named the future voice of fashion by the Business of Fashion based on her work in leveraging data science for consumer trends prediction. I don't even know what to expect right now, but I know it's going to be good. Yarden, I'll just let you take it away from here.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I am screen sharing. 1 second. Desktop. Can you see my screen?
Looks good. It's not full screen yet if you want to go full. Yeah, here it goes. And looks good. Looks great.
Perfect. Yeah, you can see all the details on her face. Great. Okay, so yeah, I mean, Donna's her talk was great, and I just learned so much. We're going to be taking a bit of a nerdier side here. We're going to get into the data, so I hope you guys can follow along. I'm going to geek out quite a bit. I have a lot of really, really interesting stats and data points that I'd love to share. I'm going to be talking about how we're using machine intelligence to spot the next big trend in beauty. And yeah, Derek, feel free if there are questions to just jump in. Any questions from the panel. Bit about Spate. So my co-founder and I are both from Google. We worked at Google for quite some time. We worked with the top global brands while we were at Google. So on the advertising side, helping them with their advertising strategy, using analytics, figuring out where the opportunity was. And in doing so, we realized that, you know, a lot of brands weren't using data when it came to product development. And so we started as a side project, a 20% project at Google. We started tapping into Google data and seeing what the trends were saying. And we started a project called Trend Spotting, which took off. The New York Times picked it up and it became our full-time role. We built a full team around it and we were launching reports like this one. So Derek mentioned this. It's the Skincare Trends Report from Google. We did everything from beauty, beverage, food, fashion. We even did an auto trends report. It was really interesting. But every time we would release one of these reports, we get a ton of requests for more of this type of data. And so about a year and a half ago, we left Google to figure out how we can bring, you know, more of this type of data to the entire beauty category. So not just bringing it to the top brands, but basically, you know, helping everyone tap into machine intelligence. And so even though we left Google, we're still tapping into Google search data. We're looking at over 10 billion signals in the beauty category. And I think, you know, even though Google search is really our bread and butter and that's our background, the reason for why we're so impressed by Google data every time it still gets us is because Google data really shows intent. It's what people are searching. I know social media data is really powerful and there's so much to learn from social media data, but what we find with social media and with focus groups is people are very quick to say one thing and then do something else. And Google search is almost, you know, subconscious. You don't even realize sometimes what you're searching. It's really getting into what's top of mind for you within that moment. And, you know, people tell their deepest, darkest secrets to Google search. I mean, it's all anonymous, but it's really, really interesting and powerful. And the more honest you are with Google search, the better the search results will be. So you're incentivized to be as honest with Google and as specific as possible. And here we can see people are even searching for niacinamide for their dogs, you know, for eczema, for anxiety, stuff that they might not be saying on social media and telling the world, but stuff that they're, you know, searching and interested in. And it really just gives you an understanding of what's top of mind for consumers. And so we take all those signals and we run machine learning on top of it to understand and to find these different clusters. And so these clusters are how we spot trends. So we have sustained risers, seasonal risers, rising stars, and then we have all the decliners. what we're looking for here is to understand basically the implications of a trend. So we're spotting these keywords that are coming up and taking off. But beyond that, we're figuring out who should be tapping into what type of keyword. So for example, sustained risers are trends that are slow and steady, and they're more likely of a safe bet. Whereas something like a rising star is taking off, and it could be like the next biggest fad, but it could also just be a fad, and it could turn into a falling star. So it's a bit riskier. So it's not good for product development. It's not good for brands that aren't really willing to take those risks. And seasonal risers are also similar to sustained risers. They're steady, safer bets, but they happen at a specific time every year. And so it's more of a time focus there, or season. And so I think Donna brought up a really good point. Within the beauty category, it's really easy to, or so sometimes we think, it's easy to spot trends, right? We see it in the street. I mean, I live in New York, so I'm surrounded by trends every day. We see the blogs, we see it on Instagram, and it can be easy to think we know what's in and what's out. But we've been in rooms with a lot of really top beauty industry experts that really know their stuff. And, you'll be surprised because it can be really difficult to, we're surrounded by everyone telling us things are trending, and it can be hard to know what's actually in, what's actually not in, and what does America overall think. I mean, I think we even saw it with the elections where, it's easy to think based on your surroundings that what's going on, and then America might surprise you. And so here we have a few examples. I don't know how we can really do this on the panel. I mean, maybe people can write in through comments, but a bit of a game for you. And you can even just think in your own head. Out of these 3 trends, only one of them is actually in, and the other 2 are out. But these are all 3 trends that blogs and Instagram is talking about. And so out of these 3 trends, try to guess which one you think is in and which ones you think are out.
We've got color correctors in, is what from Alex. Anybody
Okay.
else? I don't think I should guess. I honestly don't know. Catania says mascara is in.
Okay.
And then Rachel says lip stain is in. Oh, God.
All right. Well, who's going to be right? Clear mascara is in. So it's all about the lashes this year, this month, I guess. But yeah, we've been seeing lip stain and color corrector out for quite some time now. And it's really interesting because based on your surroundings and what you hear, it's easy to think that lip stain is really in right now, and it's easy to think that color corrector is in, but the data actually shows us, makes it a bit more clear from a black and white perspective of what do consumers want, what's top of mind for them, what are they thinking about. And here we can see that clear mascara is out of the 3 of them the one that's top of mind. Beyond that, what's also really interesting about search data is it actually happens before the sale. And so we were quoted in this article. It's a bit further down the page, you can't see it here, but WWD did a whole article on US makeup sales declining, and this was April last year. And we had actually been talking to WWD before that. So I think it was end of 2018, letting them know that search was actually showing that makeup sales were already declining, or makeup intent, makeup interest was declining. And so you can see where consumer behavior is heading just by looking at what they're searching for and how that will impact the sales. So it's been really fascinating just to see what is top of mind through consumer search data. And so giving you the background on how we do everything and how we're using data and why data, I want to show you now what we can do with that data. And so, we're essentially quantifying the entire beauty category, which gets really interesting. Here we have the face category, so face skincare category, and you can see that when we rank all the different products by volume, so how big it is, how like the size of So this is actually search volume on average every month. And so you can see that moisturizer gets the most amount of searches every month. But when we rank it by growth, you can see that the growth is actually coming from face serum and accessories. We'll get into accessories a bit later. It's a really, really interesting space right now. But yeah, here is like a way of figuring out, okay, so moisturizers might be the biggest in size, but this is where the opportunity is coming from in face serums, accessories, peels, and scrubs. And within that, you can actually see which brands are winning each space. So again, this is the face skincare category. We're seeing CeraVe with biggest number of search volume on a monthly average, and also massive growth, 43% year-on-year growth for almost 500K searches on average every month in the US. It's pretty big, whereas Roden & Fields is similar in search volume, but declining almost as much as CeraVe is growing. So really interesting to see that. And I think what has been extremely important in the beauty category is knowing which indie brands are taking off and who are the brands that are coming out of nowhere that you should be keeping an eye on. And so we can sort by growth and see where the growth is coming from. And here are a ton of brands. I mean, I've heard of Kylie Cosmetics, of course, but there are a lot of brands here that I have never heard of. So it's interesting to see who's really showing that growth. And they actually have quite a decent volume for really small brands. So yeah, using search to understand what consumers are looking for in terms of brands is also really helpful, especially because a lot of these brands aren't being sold at retail locations, so you might never have seen them, and it might be a brand that a consumer is thinking of that you've never even heard of. So this is understanding, again, beyond your bubble, beyond your city, what's going on in America, what are the brands that are sticking with consumers. And so the next sections, I want to focus on how you can actually use trends data for innovation. So we break it down into two different types. One is product innovation. So this is a bit more long-term, figuring out product development. And then the other side of it is commercial innovation. So that's more of the marketing side to it and understanding which trends are good for marketing. Again, kind of touching on what Donna had spoken about earlier. And so I mentioned before that, you know, facial accessories are growing. It has a lot to do with the devices, but a huge trend in beauty right now is all these different services and treatments in the skincare category. We're seeing basically every type of filler, cheek filler, chin filler, lip fillers are growing, but all these other types of services are also trending. And what's really interesting about that is that they're creating trends around devices as well. So jade rollers, face scrapers, thermosection, all of these devices that you can bring to your home and do at home are also starting to take off. And the reason for that is because a lot of brands are turning these services that are trending into at-home experiences. So they're creating kits around it. They're building out aftercare regime. So like you can have the serum, the oil, the cream to go along with it. It's really quite fascinating to see how brands are building out these service trends into categories of their own. And we've seen, you know, microblading is also a trend. So microblading is basically semi-permanent tattooing for eyebrows. And this brand over here, Tap Brow, created an eyebrow pen around that. And so it's not a permanent eyebrow pen, but it has the same effect and feel or look to it. It has these like 3 different like pen tips to give it the same microblading look. And so sometimes it's not even about doing the same thing that they're doing, the professionals are doing. Like you're not tattooing your eyebrow at home, but you're creating a product with the same name and, you know, experiencing or showing a similar effect. It's waterproof, so maybe that's kind of like the semi-permanent angle as well. But it is interesting to see how brands are taking the terminology and using it for the product. Eyelash extensions have been a massive trend over the last couple of years. And this, I think, is a key example of these new trends becoming categories of their own. And so we spotted eyelash extensions trending a few years ago. And with that, we heard a lot of brands saying, oh no, this is going to hurt mascara sales. And we started to see consumers search for mascara with eyelash extensions. So they were looking for oil-free mascara that could help with their eyelash extensions. And we called this out, and we started to see all these other types of products like cleansers, eyeliners also start to take off. And it in itself has really become a huge category on its own, with brands that have built, out their sales just based on owning the eyelash extension category. So Moxie Lash is a really great brand that's crushing it within the eyelash extension space. And so eyelash extension is more mature at this point even, whereas something like microneedling is a bit earlier on in that trend cycle. And so this is actually from a few months ago, some data from a few months ago that we had pulled, but you could see here that microneedling is growing, and we saw that, okay, similar to what we had seen with eyelash extensions, we're starting to see products being searched with it, serum, and only 350 searches on average every month. Just a few months later, and you can see here that microneedling with serum, like microneedling serum, is growing, still growing 32.7%. So still huge growth there, but it's already gone to 1.8 thousand searches on average every month. So going back 350 just a few months ago, now 1.8, and it's continuing to grow. So it's really interesting to see how the trend evolves. And here you can see our new UI. So yeah, it is new data. But yes, evolution of the category, seeing how microneedling, you start off with that one specific trend, and now you can, even if it's a service and it has nothing to do with your brand, your product, there's a whole category that can be built out around this topic of microneedling. Arbutin is another example of a specific trend, so more of a micro trend. It is an ingredient. It's known as a natural brightener, and we're starting to see 54.7% year-on-year growth there, and it's predicted to grow 11.7%. Why I bring this up is because it's a low volume trend, and it's really, really great for product development. So low volume means that not many people are searching for it yet. Not many people are aware of it. There's some competition, but there's no market leader, and it's likely to last. So we predict it to stick around, and that's what you need for product development. You need something that is still early stages. Not many people know it exists, and you as a brand still have a couple of years to develop product around it and compete in that space. So that's product development. What we care about on the other side of things is more commercial innovation. So this is the marketing side of it. Here you can see, similar to Arbutin, chamomile, it's an ingredient. You can also think of, hyaluronic acid would be another example, but chamomile is more high volume. So a lot of consumers highly aware of chamomile. There is competition. There are people kind of owning the space, but it's likely to stay. This marketing trend, not good for product development, because if you launch a product in a couple of years, it might be too late. But if you are focused on marketing and you realize, okay, I have a product that has chamomile in it, you can essentially take that ingredient and put it up front and center in your marketing campaigns, on your website, and the packaging and the messaging. Just really highlight in social media even the use of chamomile in your product, and basically ride the wave of this trend. One other thing when it comes to trends that are focused from a marketing perspective, it actually doesn't need to be likely to last. Because it's a marketing trend, if you're doing something within the next month, a social media campaign, anything like that, or in the next couple months, it could be something that's a bit riskier. And again, you don't need it to be there in a year from now. So just one call out there. I loved what Donna was saying before about love languages. I think here we can see how consumers are searching for things. And again, we're talking about face serum. So we were seeing that face serum was growing. But if you look at how people are searching for face serum, we can see the different claims that they're bringing up. And so, example, correcting is growing, smoothing you don't want to use. Consumers aren't as interested in smoothing, I guess, for face serum specifically. And things like lightening, things like glowing. Glowing has been trending across different categories, across different products, as well as hydrating. And similarly, brightening. So for example, if you click through to brightening, you can actually see that brightening is growing overall, and within beauty, it's growing 36.6%. Within ingredients, 104%. So people looking for that type of claim. Sometimes the interesting thing about claims is that, moisturizing might be declining, but hydrating might be growing. Highlighting might be declining, but illuminizing might be growing. So sometimes it really is just consumers' love language. It's really understanding the language that they're using and building that into your messaging. Last but not least, we also look at concerns. Concerns are really, really important. This would not be a trends deck as well if we did not talk about CBD. So I feel like we needed to bring in the CBD trend. Of course. And so here you'll see that with CBD, we look at what consumers are searching for in terms of concerns. Of course, CBD has been a massive trend for a number of reasons, but a huge driver within CBD is around the anxiety and depression. And we really, that was really highlighted by the CBD trend. But when we look at how anxiety is doing overall in terms of search alongside ingredients, we see that anxiety is growing, and surprisingly, weight loss is actually declining. Not to be confused, weight loss is still very, very important. Consumers are searching for weight loss with ingredients. It's much bigger in volume, but I guess consumer behavior is shifting, the mindset is shifting. Consumers are now caring more and thinking more about anxiety than they are about weight loss, and weight loss is becoming less top of mind than it used to. So yes, that's using data for innovation. So knowing your category, understanding where the growth is coming from, where the decline is, which brands are owning what, which brands you got to pay attention to, and then seeing product innovation. So from a product innovation standpoint, focusing on things that are very early stages but have confident growth rates, so they'll stick around for the next while. And then from a marketing standpoint, finding areas that are already high in volume, so you don't have to do too much education. You can just kind of ride a wave and bring in that language and positioning to your marketing. And so, yes, our platform is www.spate.nyc. We also have a newsletter that has a lot of great content on a weekly basis, as well as an Instagram, so you can follow us there.
Awesome. Love it. I'm just sharing this with everybody right now. Make sure that they have access to the site. What was the Instagram handle again?
Spate NYC.
Okay. So we'll get it for everyone right now so that we can link directly to it. There's Spate NYC. Make sure I got it. I love this idea. One of the things that I kept thinking here was like, who in the company best uses your data? Because I was thinking, like, when it comes to messaging, social media, social advertising, I could just see it being so valuable in keeping that message relationship on topic and with the trend. And I didn't have that data when I was spending $300,000 a month in ads for beauty brands. So I can only imagine, what that takes. Who else do you see using the data inside organizations and inside beauty companies?
Yeah, the focus for us has really been more from product development teams, marketing teams. So I went through those use cases. What we also see is sales. So sales teams using it to uncover emerging brands, understand how the brands that they have as clients are doing, and if they should kind of predict them to like cut back on spend, or if they'll, increase spend based on their consumer demand growth. We also see M&A, so mergers and acquisitions, and investors, VCs using this type of data to understand who's the next big brand that's coming out.
Awesome. Yarden, thank you so much. We're going to move right into our next presentation. We are about 8 minutes behind schedule, but that's totally fine, everybody. Before we go, Yarden, I want a prediction from you, actually. The future of beauty with all the trends that you understand, give me a prediction that you think maybe isn't in the data, like a 5-year prediction trend that you could see coming to the industry. I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
So I mean, 5 years more like macro trend.
Yeah.
Where I see it all heading is really intrinsic. So I think mental, we're seeing, consumer concerns around libido, fertility, menopause, anxiety, stress, depression. I think all of that is where beauty is heading. I think beauty used to be about physically making you look good, and now people are realizing that, if you want to look good, you have to not look tired, you have to not look stressed, and if you can fix all of that, you'll look great. And then
I love it.
I will say there's another side to it. So as much as I believe that, I think that's a huge part. And then there's this other side where consumers are trying to fix their sleep with all these like adaptogens, stuff like that. But then they're, turning to real solutions, efficacy. So lip fillers, under eye fillers to really get the results.
I see.
It's a bit of a contradiction, but that's how consumers work.
I love it. So perhaps for beauty brands, mascara, lipstick, makeup, they should be thinking about how to integrate the intrinsic approach into their product lineup.
Yeah, exactly. It can be packaging, it could be messaging, it could be experience. So how is the consumer using that product at their home or wherever they are, and how can you be adding to it to relieve stress, make them happy, make them feel good?
I love it. Yarden, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and bring Ryan Pinkman in here. Ryan. Come.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.